Armored Core 6 reminded everyone exactly why mech games can be so special. After more than a decade of waiting, From Software came back and absolutely nailed it. The speed, the weight of the combat, the build variety, the bosses, everything just clicked in a way that made it impossible to put down. I genuinely loved my time with it so much that I ended up getting the Platinum Trophy, which is something I almost never do unless a game really grabs me. But the funny thing with Armored Core is that even when you finish it, it doesn't really leave your head. You start thinking about builds you didn't try, weapons you ignored, missions you could run differently, and that itch for another mech game just kind of stays there. For me, it's always been one of those genres that hits differently. Ever since I got into Armored Core years ago, I've been hooked on the idea of building your own machine from the ground up. Not just piloting a robot, but actually shaping how that machine behaves in combat. Every part matters. Every decision changes how you play, and when a mech game gets that right, it's something really hard to replicate. And if I had to pick a personal favourite in the series, it would still be Armored Core for answer. That game was just pure chaos in the best way possible. The speed was insane. You weren't really walking around arenas, you were flying across them at ridiculous speeds, boosting through missile fire, chaining movement together, and basically turning every fight into a high-speed aerial duel. It was overwhelming at times, but in that perfect way where you slowly learn to control the chaos. Then Armored Core 6 came along and modernized everything while still keeping that core feeling intact. It brought mech games back into the spotlight in a big way, but once I finished it, I found myself looking for something new again. Something that could give me that same feeling of fast movement, deep customization, and that constant just one more mission loop. And that's where Code Rapid comes in. Now I want to be clear, this isn't about replacing Armored Core, nothing is really going to do that. But what Code Rapid does is immediately tap into that same kind of energy that makes Armored Core so addictive. From the moment I jumped into the demo, the first thing that stood out was the speed. This is not a slow mech game, this is full movement, constant pressure, always be moving kind of gameplay. You're boosting across terrain, sliding through the air, locking onto enemies, firing off missiles, dodging incoming fire, and repositioning constantly. It has that same feeling of momentum where you never really stand still long enough to feel safe. And that's exactly what I want from a mech game like this. Because the best mech combat isn't about standing in place and trading shots. It's about movement, it's about control. It's about learning how to survive while everything around you is exploding. And Code Rapid really leans into that. Once the combat starts clicking, it becomes this constant flow state where you're always making decisions. Do you push forward and stay aggressive? Do you fall back and reset? Do you burn your boost to avoid damage or save it for repositioning? Every second matters, and that's where the game starts to feel really good. But the part that really sold me wasn't just the combat, it was the customization. Because let's be honest, mech games live and die by customization. I don't just want different weapons, I want my machine to feel like mine. I want to experiment with builds that completely change how I approach fights. Maybe I go full speed and sacrifice armor. Maybe I turn my mech into a missile platform. Maybe I build something balanced that can adapt to anything. That garage loop is where so much of the addiction comes from, and Code Rapid absolutely understands that. But here's where it does something I really didn't expect. The exploration system. This game actually tells you how many secrets are in each level before you even start. And that changes everything, because suddenly you're not just rushing to the end of a mission, you're actively thinking about what you might be missing. You load into a level and you know there are, say, 5 secrets hidden somewhere, and immediately your brain switches into, okay, I need to find them mode. Some of these secrets are simple things hidden in crates tucked away in corners you'd normally fly past without a second thought, but others are much more interesting. You might need to complete hidden side objectives that unlock doors somewhere else in the level. You might discover paths that open up entirely new areas of the map. You might trigger something that completely changes how a mission plays out. It turns every level into a mix between an action mission and a small exploration puzzle. And honestly, I love that design. It reminds me of what made older Armored Core missions so replayable. That feeling of going back in, not just to improve your performance, but to actually see what you missed. Code Rapid builds on that idea in a really smart way by giving you information up front instead of hiding everything and hoping you stumble across it. It encourages you to actively hunt for it, and that makes replaying missions way more engaging. You're not just replaying for fun. You're replaying because you know there's still something left to find. That combination of fast combat, build experimentation, and exploration is what makes the game so addictive, because it creates that exact loop mech fans know too well. You finish a mission, you find a new part, you go back to the garage, you tweak your build, you tell yourself you'll just test it quickly, and suddenly you're 3 missions deeper than you planned. That's the one more run effect, and Code Rapid absolutely has it. Now, the important thing to say is, this isn't trying to be Armored Core, it's clearly inspired by it, especially the faster entries in the series, but it's also doing its own thing with the way it handles exploration and mission structure. And honestly, that's what makes it interesting, because we don't just need clones of Armored Core, we need games that understand why Armored Core works in the first place. Speed, customization, replayable missions, skill expression, build experimentation. That feeling of slowly mastering your machine until you're doing things that once felt impossible. Code Rapid gets a lot of that right, and the best part is you can try it right now. There's a demo available that includes 3 full levels, which is more than enough to get a real feel for how the game plays, how the movement works, and how deep the customization goes. I'll leave a link to it down in the video description, because if you're even slightly into mech games, I think it's worth your time, especially if you're an Armored Core fan looking for something to scratch that itch between releases. So yeah, that's Code Rapid. Fast, chaotic, customizable, and surprisingly thoughtful in how it handles exploration. It genuinely feels like one of those games where the more time you put in, the more it opens up. And I'm very curious to see where it goes next. Let me know what you think if you tried the demo. Did it click for you? Did you manage to find all the secrets in the levels? And where does it sit for you compared to other mech games? For me, nothing is ever really going to replace Armored Core for answer. That game is still unmatched when it comes to pure speed and chaos. The Code Rapid definitely has something going for it, and I'll definitely be keeping an eye on it going forward. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like, subscribe if you're new, and let me know what other mech or indie games I should check out next. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.